Hello there, it's Jason from the Weather Window, and I'm going to publish my winter forecast today. Just going to give you the brief summary. It's a short video just outlining the trends for winter 2020-2021. Now, it's been a chilly December so far. The first 10 days of December have been cold. There's been a lot of frost, particularly in Scotland, but not just in Scotland. England and Wales had frost as well. We've had many days of hill snow, and we've probably had 2 or 3 days where some areas have had snow to lower elevations as well. So it's been more seasonal this December than we would typically expect, or that we've actually had for 10 years. The last really cold December was the December to remember in 2010, where we had a severely blocked December, and the temperature that December was just 1/10 of a degree milder than the coldest month ever recorded. So only 10 years ago, it is possible to pull a cold winter off again. Will we this year? I'm going to put the cap on it a little bit. I'm going to cap it just a little bit because global temperatures have been so warm this year. We've just experienced the warmest November global temperature recorded. So even in Scotland or in the UK, I look at the central England temperature, and the only months that were a little bit below normal were July, where it was zero point 0.1 of a degree below normal, so it was kind of normal average temperatures in June and July. You know, June was good and August was much warmer. Spring was significantly warmer, and last winter we were having certain months that were 2.5 degrees above normal. October was just a little below the normal as well. It was about 0.2 below normal. So again, we'd probably say that that was fairly average. So only 2 months of this year have been just that little bit below average. Every other month was either above average or significantly warmer than average, and at times up to 3 degrees above the average, and that's a monthly figure I'm giving you there. So it is really quite hard to pull off a month that's 3 degrees above or below average, because you tend to get 1 or 2 weeks during the month that would offset that. So for example, September, we had 3 weeks where it was 2 degrees above average for the 3 weeks of September in Scotland. The last week was a good degree or a degree and a half below normal, and that offset the balance a little bit, if you see what I mean. So December, cold first 10 days as we've experienced, another day or two to go of that. Then I think it's going to get milder. I don't think it's going to be particularly mild, maybe mild in the south of England for a day or two, around about the weekend or the beginning of next week. So that's the middle of December. But then I think we've got a cooling trend going on from next week, where the temperatures just go back down to where they kind of are just now, where they've been at the beginning of December. So nothing drastic, but certainly a cooling trend. And I think it's going to be quite unsettled really for the next 10 days. So, from the 10th to nearly the 20th of December, a little bit more unsettled. There'll be a few drier days in there, a few brighter days in there, a couple of nights where we might have a touch of frost, mist and fog, but there's also going to be some wind and rain, especially in the northwest, where you could get some wind storms actually from time to time. A kind of normal December setup really there. However, from about the 18th towards the 20th, high pressure, I think, is going to start to build in again. High pressure in winter is generally a colder signal, and high pressure's got this tendency to perhaps build to our north and east. There's been a huge Siberian high, a big block. There's a little bit of high pressure over Greenland. There's a little bit of high pressure over the Canadian Arctic. So we can see what's known as northern blocking at the moment. And actually, the Arctic and North Atlantic oscillations are both in their negative phase at the moment. What a contrast from last winter, where they were negative all spring, and then come the 1st of December, they flipped to positive. A positive North Atlantic oscillation or Arctic oscillation means there's low pressure round about Iceland, Greenland, high pressure in the Azores. Consequently, we have a southwesterly flow. That's the default setup. That's what we have most winters, if not almost all winters, the exception maybe being one or two per decade. We occasionally get some cold snaps coming through. This winter, I think that's going to happen. So with the North Atlantic and Arctic oscillation in negative territory, and predicted to be negative into, say, the 20th of December, that's suggesting to me there's more high pressure in the northern latitudes. It could be Iceland, it could be Greenland, northwest Scotland, it could be over Scandinavia, or it could be further north in the Norwegian Sea, or it could be linking towards the Siberian high. So we're looking for the possibility of that happening. Settling weather down. So from about the 18th, settling down, drier, maybe frosty, maybe some crisp days, some mist and fog at night time, maybe quite drab and dull and dreary if you have a lot of mist and fog and the air's not really been stirred up that much. There's also potential though for some bright sunshine on some of those days, and if you get sunshine you get cold nights, and if you get mist and fog then the temperature during the day is rather suppressed as well. So I'm going for a cool period as we run towards Christmas, and the potential for cooler cold weather over the festive season. Not nailing it to a date, I will soon. I will start doing my predictions for Christmas Day fairly soon, but we really need to wait. And if you're looking for snow, I can say, okay, it's possible, and cold weather round about the festive season is possible, but to get it to the day, we're really going to have to wait until about the 20th of December, even the 22nd, 23rd of December to be sure if your location has snow this Christmas time. So more promising than normal, I would say. The chances are that as we run later on in the month, that we start to bring weather in from the Atlantic again. There's just, the models are hinting at that. The models are hinting that it may go a wee bit more stormy towards the end of December, towards Hogmanay, towards New Year. Although it may be that colder weather hangs on till then. It might be we have a cold New Year as well. But certainly in the New Year period, I think there's a possibility of a transition from the more cold and settled conditions into something that's more Atlantic based. That might initially bring snow as rain bumps into the cold air. We just have to wait and see. But January, I'm going for a mixed January. Some cold snaps are possible, and we could have one or two pretty cold snaps. Might have one at the beginning, maybe one towards the end of the month, but I do think there's going to be some mixed weather in there in January, some wet and some windy weather from time to time. Reason being, the polar vortex is actually ramping up right now, and although I can see some signs of a potential sudden stratospheric warming event occurring, because just everything that's happening this year, I'm predicting one. I'm definitely predicting a sudden stratospheric warming, where stratosphere is the highest layer of the atmosphere. The troposphere is below that, and that's where weather happens. So we're looking at the very, very top of the atmosphere, away up at 10 HPA, way up there, and we're looking at that warming. And it looks like it's going to warm over the Siberian side of the Arctic during the Christmas period, perhaps Christmas week itself, down towards New Year. Now, if that warmth infiltrates the North Pole, it might just be a minor warming. Perhaps warming is something more major to come early in January. And if that does happen, it warms up the upper level of the atmosphere above the North Pole. Consequently, that warm air begins to come down, descend down, and it creates an area of high pressure. Now, as I said, we've already got some northern latitude blocking at the moment, so that's why it's looking quite promising for at least cold snaps this winter, because that's happening. I'm going to be watching that through December and firming up on those ideas. But if we have an SSW event, then what could happen is that we have a much more blocked scenario, which is more difficult to get out of. So, cold snaps, possible in January. Sometimes we get a very quick response from an SSW. Generally, it can take about 2, 3 or even 4 weeks to propagate from the highest levels of the stratosphere down into the troposphere, where weather is actually happening. And basically what I'm suggesting is, if that happens, then February could be a month where we get locked into much colder weather pattern with north and east winds quite frequent, especially later in February. I'm going to extend out into the beginning of March and say I would expect that to continue then as well. If you'd like me to extend a little bit further into spring, then I would say that after a cold start, we've got some promising signals. This is just my interpretation, and we now are talking 4 or 5 months away, so it is completely unreliable. Don't quote me at this stage of December saying we're going to have a good spring. I will firm up on all the details. I'm going to do another video or two. I'm going to have a little look at the models and show you what they're saying, because I think that's quite important. And I'm also going to do another little explainer where I look at all the telecommunications. So we'll look at La Nina, we'll look at the sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian Ocean dipole, which is pretty important. Actually, it's looking good this year because we're in a neutral to negative state, whereas last year it was highly positive, and it was thought that that influenced the polar vortex being so strong, the wind and rainstorms relentlessly last winter because of what was going on in the Indian Ocean. So this year it's the opposite. It's the opposite, and also the Pacific is looking opposite to what it did last year. And as I suggested, the North Atlantic Oscillation and the Arctic oscillations at the moment are trending negative, which is the opposite from what happened in winter 2019-20. So it's quite exciting. As I say, globally we have had such a warm year. It is very concerning, and I think that would limit a severe winter, if you get what I mean. The Northern Hemisphere is so much warmer than it should be. The Arctic areas are so much warmer than they should be. We had one of the largest Arctic sea ice melt seasons on record. It almost beat the death spiral year of 2012. So there's less ice there. It's not as cold as it would normally be. Okay, it's cooling down a little bit now, but I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to say here. If it had been a typical year where temperatures were more globally round about average, then it wouldn't take too much for us to have a severe winter. But because the temperatures are 1 or 2 degrees above average globally, it's very, very scary. Seriously, I think snow is going to be increasingly unlikely in the years to come. Sad to say. So I'm going to celebrate it this year, and any time that we see snow on the horizon, I will let you know. I'm hoping it's going to be much more than just a mountain phenomenon. I think the Scottish ski resorts will do very well this year. There's no doubt about it. The Alps have already done really well with metres of snow already this December. So Europe has had some snow. We've had some snow. Another really interesting theory actually is how quickly snow advances across Eurasia and into Europe, especially during October. And this year there was a very rapid increase in snow cover, extending from Siberia. It covered the entire continent of Russia and moved into northeastern Europe. Scandinavia was covered with snow in October as well. It began to thaw away later on in October. Let's say we had that 3 weeks in October. It was a wee bit colder, and that was certainly reflected with the northern hemisphere as well. So again, that stands in our favour. Also, biggest hurricane season ever recorded. What hurricanes do is distribute heat. They take the heat from the tropical Atlantic and they take it up towards the polar regions. Again, anything that warms the pole during the winter is more likely to produce high pressure and blocking, forcing the winds into the north and east. And essentially, the cold air that's normally locked up in the Arctic can seep down, say, into Scandinavia or North Europe or into Asia or into North America, Canada. Depends what side of the block you're on. I mean, I would say for America this winter, the northern states will probably have a very snowy winter, but I would have thought that the south and the east of America are going to have quite a mild one with a displaced jet stream, and that's down to La Nina. So I'm going to give you all those details in a video, hopefully with some graphics as well. Look out for the full European forecast for the month ahead, taking us into January 2021. I don't know about you, but I can't wait. I'm looking forward to New Year more than Christmas this year. Thanks for watching my video. Please spread on the word. thanks for joining Jason's Weather Window and supporting me in all the ways you do. Have a great winter season. See you soon. Bye bye.